now confirmed. Michigan football is the team to beat in the Big Ten Conference. Michigan football is the Big Ten bully. Michigan football is the hunted. And if you need any more proof, just look at the latest scandal involving an NCAA investigation, all perpetrated by our opponents. I don't see anybody investigating sign stealing for the Michigan State team or any of our other opponents so far this season. It's only Michigan. This is what happens when you have climbed to the top of the mountain and you are the team to beat. This is true. More than ever, Michigan football is the Big Ten bully that everyone wants to take shots at. We're going to talk about that and go around the upcoming great Saturday of college football action, not only in the Big Ten, but around the country. Today on Wolverine Fan Therapy. That's right, I'm your host, Phil Kane, the Wolverine Fan Therapy Podcast. Please, if you enjoy this content, please do us a favor, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcasts on any podcast service, and comment. Let us know what you think. Please give us your comments in the comment section. All right, thanks so much for joining us today. Again, Phil Kane, your host of Wolverine Fan Therapy. If you don't know who we are, look, I'm a Michigan fan. I've been a Michigan fan for 50 years. I grew up in Michigan. I attended the University of Michigan. I graduated from the University of Michigan. And I love Michigan football, season ticket holder for many years. And I just wanted to bring a sense of what the fans are really thinking, the pulse of the fans, and the fans that I know are the ones that really care. They really care about Michigan football. They really care about what happens to the program. And yes, we can all get a little bit emotional, a little bit passionate. Sometimes our passions get the best of us, but that's what we want to do here with Wolverine Fan Therapy, is help each other to bring us back to some semblance of reality. And on today's show, we want to talk about the reality with Michigan football is that we have become the team that everyone wants to be like, but also wants to take the shots at. And if you ever needed any more proof of that, it's this latest quote unquote scandal, this latest investigation by the NCAA. There's so many ways to attack this weak scandal, this weak investigation. I would start by just the fact that the NCAA, the bumbling, stumbling, Keystone Cop approach that the NCAA has always taken, right? The NCAA never actually finds anything. They only do an investigation when someone tells them about something. Well, gee, isn't it funny that it's always, somebody at Tennessee turning somebody in at Alabama, or somebody at Florida turning in someone at Florida State, or in this case, somebody at Ohio State, probably, or maybe Rutgers turning someone in at Michigan. I mean, the whole thing is so ludicrous. If the NCAA was truly an effective enforcement body, wouldn't they be the ones that are actually finding things through their own investigation, through their own surveillance or their own accountability programs that they had put in place? Isn't that the way it's supposed to work? I think so. Or is it only when someone who's clearly biased and has an agenda calls up, oh, hey, you might want to, look into this because Michigan's stealing signs, and here's all the evidence that we have. We have no evidence. There is no evidence. So Michigan has assistant coaches or staffers that may review film and attend games of other teams to try to decipher all those silly signs that they hold up on the sidelines. Yes, so does every other team in the country. Otherwise, Well, why do they have all those silly signs? I mean, if you're, it's totally legal to do this. If you're not worried about anyone stealing signs, well then why don't you just hold up a sign that says, "This is the play we're gonna run," right? No, they don't do. They do all these silly shenanigans to try to mask and hide what the play call is, and it's totally legal for the other team to look at the games that they've played all season long and in previous seasons and try to figure out, oh, when they hold up grapefruit Taylor Swift, that means that they're doing the slant pass. I mean, what is the problem here? So it looks like at this point, at first yesterday when this broke, it looked like a lot of signs were pointing that it was Greg Schiano at Rutgers. That still might be the case, but now it seems like it's much more likely that it's our dear friend Ryan Day and his Ohio against the world down at Ohio State. Again, to me, as a Michigan fan for 50 years, as a person who suffered through many underperforming seasons, and all of us, I think, as fans can say, look, after everything we've been through in the last, I'll say since Lloyd Carr's retirement, but even going back to, as Wolverine fans, we still get, Appalachian State in 2007 shoved in our face, even though FCS schools regularly beat schools every year now. But, we for the past 15 years, after all we've been through, to now be in this position where we're the ones that people are turning in, okay? As I said in the lead, I don't think anybody's turning Michigan State in for sign stealing. I don't think anybody's turning Indiana or Rutgers in for sign stealing. I don't think anybody's turning anybody else in the Big Ten in for sign stealing. It's only Michigan. Why? Because they know they can't beat us. They know that we're the top. We are the pinnacle. In comments that players have made all season, they're gunning for Michigan. They want their program to be like Michigan. In practice, they say, look, we don't have to play teams like Michigan every week. Coaches like Matt Rule and PJ Fleck, who have basically said Michigan's like playing an NFL team. It's probably the best team that they've ever faced in their entire coaching career. And the fact that we have basically dominated the Big Ten with 19 consecutive victories and only one Big Ten loss in the seasons 2021, 2022, and 2023. And looking like this year, there are really probably only 2 games on our schedule that we really have to be worried about losing. If we lose any other games, if Michigan loses to Michigan State or Purdue or even Maryland, they only have themselves to blame. They're going to be double-digit favorites in all those games. They're a 24-point favorite on the road at Michigan State. That's just how far we've come, okay? And just like the Patriots when they were at their pinnacle and other teams in other sports, when you can't beat a team, what do? You try to first figure out how they're doing it, and then you try to attack them from any flank possible. That's what's going on right now. That's exactly what's going on with this quote-unquote scandal. There's no way in a million years you would ever convince me that these teams or whoever's calling the NCAA, if it's Ohio State or Rutgers or whomever, is actually really worried about sign stealing being an issue across the board in the NCAA, in the college football. They're not. Okay, it's just a Michigan issue because that's the only way they can attack Michigan. There's so many other things about this that are just ridiculous. Point out that this could all be alleviated if the NCAA teams if college football, I'm going to stop saying NCAA, college football teams would just institute radio communication that the NFL has had for, I think it's over 25 years. I think it goes back to the 90s that NFL teams have one player on offense and defense that is radio connected to the sideline for the play calling. So in the NFL, you don't see all the silly shenanigans with the holding up signs and, the 5 or 6 different colored shirts on 5 or 6 different staffers holding up, homemade, looks like somebody's homemade science project from elementary school. They don't have all that silliness in the NFL because they just have a radio communication. Look, college football is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's plenty of money to pay for that, and the technology's been there for a long time. And then, to go even further is this also is the latest evidence that underlies why is the NCAA even involved with college football anymore. This whole thing is silly, okay? We are talking about literally billions of dollars at stake, and yet we still have these just silly things going on where the college football needs some type of needs its own governing body, some type of, and I think that is a lot of also what's going on is the NCAA knows that it's in its last days of grasping at any control that it might have over the big moneymaker, the big sport, the big meal ticket for everybody, which is college football. And the writing's on the wall that the SEC and the Big Ten are probably working on some type of new governing body or having some type of a commissioner of college football, because the old way, the NCAA has just made a mess of things for so long, and it's a very reactive, dysfunctional, weird governing body that it doesn't make anything better. All it does is make things worse, and all it does is just create problems and headaches for people, and it's ripe for situations like this that are just fraught with bias, fraught with corruption, fraught, somebody at the NCAA clearly has an issue with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan right now, whether it's because of some of the outspoken comments Harbaugh's made about revenue sharing with players, whether it's just his personality in general, whether it's just that he's one of the big dogs in the sport and so they want to try to keep him on a leash. It's clear that they're focused on Michigan, and these allegations are just absolutely, to me, silly. And I think pretty much every Wolverine fan I've talked to, even the most sensible, calm, rational, unbiased as possible Michigan fans are like, I just don't understand what the big deal is. We're not talking about anybody getting hurt. We're not talking about players or young men being, millions of dollars being given to them illegally. We're not talking about anything that involves any kind of breaking of laws. Nobody's harming anyone. So what's the big deal? And I think you hear this in comments from other fans of other teams. I've talked to several fans of other teams. They're like, why is there all these nothing burger investigations into Michigan? And again, why? Because we are at the top of the mountain. We are holding the crown. And when you're wearing the crown, there are always going to be people. There's always political opponents. And this clearly is someone's political agenda to try to tear down Michigan off the field because they can't do it on the field. That's all this is. I'll end this rant by saying a good friend, John Crick. You can follow him on Twitter at John Crick, Kryk. I think he posted a quote this morning that really sums this up best. This is from Michigan football coach Fielding Yost in 1905. So that's 118 years ago. On why he stopped caring regarding cheating charges. And here's the quote from Fielding Yost. The friends of Michigan, of UM, will know it is a lot of lies without any statement from me. And our enemies will believe it. And if I piled up denials mountain high, it wouldn't make any difference. So at the end of the day, this is one of those clearly political discussions. Choose your topic, whatever it is. In this case, it's Michigan football stealing signs. If someone is vehemently opposed to Michigan, well, they're going to think this is great news. Oh, Michigan's a bunch of cheaters, and they're going to seize on it as an opportunity to validate their conviction that Michigan is evil and must be brought down. And it's clearly political, right? Just like, hey, if this was happening, if some allegations were being lobbied against Ohio State, Michigan fans would probably say, yeah, go get them. And this is why the NCAA is such a joke, right? Because it's clearly used as a political pawn for people. And this is no different. And this is one of those, like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, nobody's going to believe. They're going to believe whatever they want to believe based on their own biases and who they root for. And it's just the way it is. Just like if you talk to somebody who's a Patriots fan, however many years later, 10, 12 years later, about Deflategate, they're going to say it was no big deal. But if you talk to somebody who's a New York Jets fan or a Miami Dolphins fan or a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, they're going to say, they always cheated. Those Patriots were always cheaters. They're always cheaters. I mean, there's nicknames for Bill Belichick, Bill Belicheat. So it's never going to be resolved. It's just one of those things that adds to the insanity, the fun, the passion, the fanaticism of our sport. And if you really honestly believe that Michigan football was successful the last few years because they stole a couple of signs, well, then you're clearly probably an Ohio State or a Michigan State fan. That's just the way it is. And if you are a Michigan fan, you're going to go, seriously? You think that the only reason Michigan outscored Ohio State 28-3 in the second half last year in Columbus was because they stole signs? The only reason that Michigan outscored Rutgers 31-7 and 31-0 after the first minute of the game this year in Ann Arbor was because we stole their signs? Seriously? I mean, that's honestly what you believe? Well, if you believe that, then clearly you're biased and you're just a Michigan hater. And no Wolverine fan I can tell you that I've talked to or probably ever will talk to is ever going to believe that Michigan won 2 back-to-back Big Ten championships and won 2 years in a row against Ohio State and has had the unbelievable success that they've had now for the 3rd season in a row in the Big Ten because of stealing signs. That's just a ludicrous thesis. If that's your thesis, there's just nothing to hold to back that up. If you stood in front of a judge and tried to argue that argument, that thesis, you're going to lose. It's not. There's no evidence. There's not even circumstantial evidence of it. And so, to me, it's just, again, proof as we go into this Michigan State weekend, Michigan State game, of how far we've come. All right, let's talk for a second just about what a great weekend of college football that we have on tap, starting with the noon Eastern time kickoff Penn State at Ohio State. Man, what a great, this is just, it's like a steak dinner for college football fans, right? I mean, this game is so hard to pick who's going to win. To me, it's a 50-50. It's a coin flip. You've got all the questions that are going to be answered. Can Drew Aller actually win a game against a top 10 opponent on the road? How's he going to play? He's a different quarterback at home versus on the road, at least so far. This is the biggest test he's had of his career. And he tends to not really have a lot of history or experience throwing the ball deep. That doesn't mean that he can't. It remains to be seen if he even needs to. And then on Ohio State's side, of course, are they tough? Are they tough enough? All the question marks. Who's going to play for Ohio State? Is Travion Henderson going to play? Is Emeka Ibuka going to play? And then their quarterback, of course, Kyle McCord. Can he stand up to the pressure of, no offense to Notre Dame fans, but Penn State's better. Their roster's better, their defense is better. And this is going to be an amazing matchup. And then, of course, in the games historically, Ohio State and Penn State, in most cases, special teams have played a big role. So who's going to get that key blocked punt, or who's going to get that key kickoff return or punt return for a touchdown to, totally change the game. And, many people wonder if Penn State hadn't blocked that punt, returned it for a touchdown, and somehow beaten that Ohio State team back in 2016, James Franklin's career at Penn State would look very differently. He might not even still be there. But anyway, that's one of the big marquee matchups. You've also got a lot of other big games. Of course, for us, a rivalry game at Michigan State. Maybe a little bit of the luster's off because Michigan's a 24-point favorite. But as I covered earlier in the week, I think most of that game you're going to think it looks like Michigan State's going to cover that spread. I think it's going to be kind of an ugly street fight. Michigan ends up winning. I've got 37-20. Maybe I revised that a little bit, to 38-17, 37-17. But Michigan pulls away in the second half. But it'll be a good game to watch. I think Michigan State. You're going to get Michigan State's best punch and probably their best game of the season. This is their Super Bowl. This is their bowl game. They're gonna throw everything at this game. And then you've got other great games. Alabama, Tennessee. You got some great matchups out in the Pac-12. USC, Utah. So for college football fans, we're really now into the great part of the season. It's toward the end of October. This is when the games get just that much more meaningful and just that much more impactful for the season. So enjoy a great weekend of college football and enjoy the fact that Michigan, we have arrived at the top of the mountain. We are the bully of the Big Ten. We are the team to beat in the Big Ten and maybe in the country. And boy, what a great position to be in as Wolverine fans. So enjoy the weekend. Happy Friday. Thanks, and as always, go Blue. Again, if you like this podcast, if you like this material, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to any podcast service. Please like and please comment. Let me know what you think. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Tell me where you think I'm doing a good job, and tell me where you think I'm crazy. I want to hear from you, Wolverine fans. All right, go Blue.